Rain hammered the window in relentless sheets, tracing rivulets of water down the glass and casting warped reflections onto the hardwood floor. I stood in my living room, heart pounding, phone clutched so tightly in my hand I could feel the edges digging into my palm. For the third time that afternoon, the same unfamiliar number buzzed across the screen, labeled only as Doctor. My pulse kicked up a notch. No one in my family was sick, at least, not as far as I knew, and I certainly hadn't scheduled any appointments. So why did I feel an ice-cold dread coil through my gut each time that name appeared? Something told me that whoever was on the other end of the line, it wasn't any physician I wanted to meet. I'd first noticed that name, Doctor, a few days before. It had been a fleeting moment. I was about to plug in my spouse Sasha's phone to charge when the screen lit up, revealing 2 missed calls from a number saved under that odd contact. I frowned, curiosity piqued. Sasha had never mentioned any upcoming medical appointments. I brushed it off at first, deciding that maybe it was a dentist's office or an old contact Sasha never bothered to rename. Life got busy, and I forgot the incident, until the calls started coming to my phone. Now, I should clarify, I share a plan with Sasha, which means our carriers sometimes forward calls in weird ways, especially if one phone is off or signal is spotty. So it wasn't entirely out of the realm of possibility for this doctor to be trying to reach Sasha through me. But it was still unnerving. And more to the point, the timing was suspicious. Sasha had been acting off for about a month, restless at night, locked away for hours in the home office, phone calls that ended abruptly whenever I walked in. As someone who prided myself on trusting my spouse implicitly, I tried to dismiss it as stress from Sasha's new job or the pressure of looming deadlines. But the calls from Doctor pressed me to face a possibility I didn't want to consider. Something was being hidden. It seemed too dramatic to leap to the conclusion that Sasha was sick, or that there was an affair disguised under a fake medical label. My mind flitted through 1,000 half-formed worries. Was Sasha dealing with some private health scare? Could the doctor be a code name for a therapist? My head spun with speculation. Each time my phone buzzed, my skin prickled. I had to know what was going on. Determined, I confronted Sasha one evening as we sat at the kitchen table. We'd barely exchanged more than a few words all day. The tension in the air felt thick, fueled by 1,000 unspoken questions. A half-eaten plate of pasta sat between us, grown cold while we both pretended to be preoccupied. Finally, I mustered the courage and said, "Hey, so, something weird happened. I keep getting calls from a contact in your phone named Doctor. Any idea what that's about?" Sasha's fork froze mid-twirl in the pasta. "Calls to your phone." There was a subtle tremor in Sasha's voice. "That's strange. Maybe the carrier is mixing up lines again." "Could be," I allowed. "But why is the contact named Doctor? Do you have an appointment I don't know about?" Sasha's gaze dropped to the plate. "It's nothing. Just someone from work. Sometimes we joke around with nicknames. It's stupid." The words tumbled out too quickly. A forced laugh followed. "I'll fix it, rename it something normal. Sorry for the confusion." The explanation was so flimsy it took me aback. Nicknames with co-workers? Sasha wasn't the type to label a contact doctor as a random joke, not without telling me. I narrowed my eyes, but decided to let it rest for the moment. Pushing too hard might drive Sasha deeper into secrecy. Still, the knot in my stomach only tightened, an instinct screaming that the truth was more complicated. Over the next week, calls kept coming at odd hours, early morning, late evening. I usually missed them by the time I scrambled for my phone. Sasha, meanwhile, remained skittish. There were nights I caught glimpses of Sasha hunched over the phone in the dark, whispering. When I'd stir and ask what was going on, Sasha would jump, claiming it was just a late-night project meltdown. I wanted to believe it. But anyone with eyes could see the worry etched across Sasha's face. One late afternoon, I left work early, feeling ill at ease. My boss noticed I was distracted and insisted I go home to rest. On the drive back, gloom pressed in. Low, rumbling clouds threatened rain. Thunder growled in the distance. My mind was so preoccupied with the doctor calls that I almost missed my turn. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the first droplets spattered across the windshield. I hurried inside, shrugging out of my damp jacket. The house was quiet. Sasha's car was in the driveway, so I expected to find my spouse in the office. Instead, I heard hushed talking from the guest bedroom down the hall, the door slightly ajar. My pulse jumped. Stepping carefully, I approached. Sasha's voice filtered through, laced with tension. "No, that's not possible. I told you, I'm not sure if." A pause, then, "I understand. Yes, tomorrow could work, but not at the house. I have to keep this quiet. Another pause. I'll text you the address. And, can you please not call me so often? That last request sent my heart lurching. Right then, I heard movement, Sasha's footsteps, presumably ending the call. Adrenaline jolted me. I backed away just in time to avoid detection. My mind reeled, so Sasha was clandestinely meeting doctors somewhere tomorrow, away from home. Why the secrecy? Retreating to the living room, I tried to steady my breathing. My phone was in my pocket, a silent witness to the repeated calls from that same contact. Should I confront Sasha now, demand an explanation? The moment I saw Sasha exit the guest bedroom, pale and tense, I knew it wasn't the best time. There was a haunted look in those eyes, like someone cornered. Instead, I forced a casual smile and asked, "Everything okay? You look spooked." Sasha blinked, then managed a tight laugh. "Oh, yeah. Just a rough day with a coworker. You know how it is." My spouse brushed past me into the kitchen, rummaging in the cabinet for a glass. "Need some water, my throat is killing me." I watched, heart twisting. "Sure." I said nothing else, not wanting to push, but the sense of dread only deepened. That night, a storm rolled in, thunder rattling the windows. Neither of us slept much. Sasha tossed and turned, occasionally reaching for the phone. I stared at the ceiling, drifting in and out of uneasy dozing. Each time lightning flashed, I glimpsed Sasha's profile, etched in anxiety, eyes open. It felt like we were two strangers sharing the same bed. In the morning, Sasha left early, offering a mumbled excuse about an urgent matter at work. I remained behind, trying to figure out my next move. Something about that phone call, the reference to meeting up, the shaky tension, told me this was bigger than a silly nickname for a coworker. My fears tumbled in all directions: a secret medical condition, an affair, or possibly something else entirely. 1,000 times, I considered calling or texting Sasha directly, demanding honesty. But a voice inside me hesitated. If Sasha was truly in trouble or embroiled in something complicated, a heavy-handed confrontation might close the door on the truth. By 10 a.m., I'd resolved to do some investigating of my own. I knew it was a breach of privacy, but the sense of looming crisis outweighed my guilt. If Sasha was in trouble, I had to help. If Sasha was lying, I needed to know. I rummaged through the side table in our living room, pulling out an old phone bill we'd received last month. In the itemized call list, maybe I'd find the number for Dr. Heart pounding, I flipped through the pages until I spotted repeated calls from an unfamiliar number. Over the course of the last month, that same number appeared at least a dozen times, some calls lasting a minute or two, others extended. This must be it. I scribbled it down, my nerves taut. Then, determined, I grabbed my own phone and dialed. The line rang twice, then a click. A man's voice answered, deep and controlled. "Hello?" I froze, unsure of what to say. I cleared my throat. "Hi, this is... I'm calling because this number's shown up on my phone. Are you Dr. Mitchell or something?" Silence hung, pregnant with tension. Then the man spoke softly, "Who is this?" My mind scrambled. "My name's Cameron. I keep seeing this number labeled as doctor in my spouse's contacts. I'm just trying to figure out if there's been some confusion. Are you a physician?" A pause. I heard a low sigh. "I'm not a medical doctor, no. And I doubt your spouse wanted you calling me. I'm sorry, but I can't speak further." "Wait, please," I begged, a pulse of desperation in my voice. "I'm worried about Sasha. Are they in danger? Is there something going on?" He exhaled quietly. "I can't discuss this. You should ask your spouse directly." Before I could protest, he hung up. The abrupt click rang in my ears. I sagged onto the couch, phone still clutched in my hand. That was definitely suspicious. Not a medical doctor, clearly. And from his tone, he wasn't a typical coworker either. He refused to speak. My mind reeled with worst-case scenarios: blackmail, threats, or a hidden crisis. Or maybe the man was a therapist, bound by confidentiality? But that didn't align with Sasha's intense secrecy about meeting him in person. Usually, therapy appointments happen in official offices, not hush-hush rendezvous. And Sasha's mention of not calling so often felt more clandestine. Determined and fueled by anxiety, I decided to do the unthinkable: follow Sasha. I hated the idea, it reeked of distrust and invasiveness. But my gut told me we were past the point of polite conversation. If Sasha wouldn't confide, maybe I'd glean answers by witnessing this meeting. Around noon, I drove to Sasha's workplace. Parking on a side street, I settled in to wait. I knew from past visits which car was Sasha's. Peering from behind the steering wheel, I saw Sasha's sedan in the lot. Time dragged. My stomach growled, but I ignored it, adrenaline coursing too strongly to consider lunch. Finally, at around 2 p.m., Sasha emerged, glancing around furtively before getting into the sedan and pulling out. My heart hammered. I let a few cars slip between us and followed. The city blurred by as we headed toward the outskirts, a place known for small industrial parks and warehouses. The environment shifted from bustling intersections to quieter roads. After about 20 minutes, Sasha's sedan turned down a narrow lane lined with abandoned-looking buildings. Gulping, I slowed, staying well behind. Eventually, Sasha parked by a low, nondescript structure with dusty windows. There was a single black SUV already parked near the entrance. I pulled over around the corner, cutting the engine. From my vantage, I watched Sasha exit the car, cross to the building's entrance, and slip inside. No sign out front indicated what the building was used for. My heart hammered so loudly I feared passers-by might hear it. The tension was maddening. What was Sasha doing in this isolated place? My mind warred with two impulses: charge in and demand answers, or linger and gather more intel. The second approach felt safer. If Sasha was truly in danger, barging in might make things worse. Slowly, I inched out of my car, creeping toward the building. Raindrops began to fall, spattering the pavement. The faint rumble of thunder echoed from distant clouds. A side window, partially broken, offered a murky view into the dim interior. Heart pounding, I peered through the dusty glass. Inside, industrial lighting flickered, illuminating a large, open area with concrete floors. There was Sasha, standing with the man from earlier, tall, well-dressed, with an air of quiet authority. A single metal table stood between them, stacked with folders. Sasha looked tense, arms folded. The man gestured to something in a file. My breath caught. Some official-looking documents, maybe? At first, I couldn't hear anything. Then, slowly, I realized a small gap in the window let their voices filter out, muffled but audible. I strained to listen over the patter of rain. No time left, the man was saying. We need an answer. Either you commit, or we sever the arrangement. This is bigger than you or me. Sasha's voice quivered. I know. But I can't just vanish for weeks without an explanation. My spouse will notice. People at work. Then make something up, the man snapped. You understood the terms when we recruited you. Recruited? My blood chilled. Recruited for what? Sasha ran a hand through disheveled hair. I can try. But it feels wrong, lying this way. My spouse is already suspicious. The man's tone softened slightly. Look, you're vital to our operation. We can't proceed without your skill set. If you back out now, everything we've built crumbles. Do you want that guilt on your conscience? Sasha let out a trembling sigh. No. But I can't break my spouse's trust. At least give me time to come clean or figure something out. The man shook his head. There's no time, agent. He let that word hang ominously. We're heading out in 4 days. If you're not with us, we'll assume you've defected. And that won't end well for either of us. Agent? My mind reeled. This was sounding more and more like some clandestine operation, not a medical appointment or affair. My entire body felt locked in place, adrenaline sizzling through my veins. Could Sasha be involved in some espionage or covert government program? The concept was absurd, but the conversation was equally surreal. Sasha bit her lip. Fine. I'll do it. But I need the new identity papers you mentioned. My spouse can't suspect a thing. The man rifled through the folder, pulling out a small envelope. He slid it across the table. Everything's here. Passport, identification, even a plausible cover story. Once you join us, you'll have to cut contact with your life here. Are you prepared for that? Sasha's voice cracked. I guess I'll have to be. I nearly choked on air. Cut contact with me? My mind spun, equal parts betrayal, shock, and heartbreak. Sasha was planning to vanish, presumably on some covert mission. That explained the late-night calls, the secret appointments, the hush-hush instructions. But why on earth would my spouse be part of something like that? A crash of thunder jolted me. The sound echoed inside as well, causing Sasha and the man to glance around. My heart seized as they turned toward the window. Panicking, I ducked, pressing myself against the wall. My pulse was a wild staccato in my ears. Seconds passed. I heard footsteps approach from inside. My muscles tensed. Any second, they'd discover me eavesdropping. Then the footsteps faded, followed by the creak of a door further inside. The building fell silent again, aside from the drip of rain. Breathing raggedly, I scrambled back to my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the keys. Once inside, I locked the doors, heart pounding. My mind was a swirl of terror and confusion. This was no petty affair or medical secret. Sasha was involved in something that required a new identity, a potential disappearance. And it was happening soon, within days. I started the engine and pulled away, mind reeling. I had to confront Sasha now. But how to even begin that conversation? My spouse was about to vanish under suspicious circumstances. Fear, anger, heartbreak all coalesced into a single, desperate need. I had to stop this. If Sasha was in danger or being coerced, we needed help. If Sasha was going willingly, the betrayal stung so deeply I couldn't think straight. That evening, Sasha came home later than usual, hair damp from the rain, shoulders slumped. I waited in the living room, my phone turned off to avoid disruptions. As soon as Sasha stepped inside, I stood. The tension in the air was palpable. Before Sasha could speak, I said, "We need to talk. Now." Sasha's eyes flickered with alarm. "What's going on?" I gestured to the couch. "Sit. Please." After a hesitant moment, Sasha complied, perching at the edge of a cushion. I remained standing, arms crossed, adrenaline still coursing through me. "I know about your meeting today. With the man you called doctor. I followed you." Sasha's face went white. You followed me?" "Yes. And I overheard enough to know you're planning to disappear in 4 days," I bit out, voice shaking. "Something about a new identity, an operation you're vital to, being recruited. Please, Sasha, tell me what's going on." For a moment, Sasha just stared, stunned into silence. Then tears welled, and my spouse buried their face in trembling hands. "Oh God," came the muffled whisper. "I wanted to protect you from this. I never meant to." "Protect me from what?" I demanded, voice hoarse. "You're involved in something that requires you to drop your entire life. Don't you realize what that does to me? To us?" Sasha lifted tear-filled eyes, heartbreak etched into every feature. I can't give you all the details. It's classified. But yes, I was recruited a year ago by a covert branch of the government. My skill set in cybersecurity made me an ideal candidate. At first it was small tasks, monitoring threats, hacking suspicious servers. But now they want me to go undercover abroad, infiltrate a dangerous network. If I succeed, it could save countless lives. If I fail, it could cost me everything. My stomach knotted in disbelief. Cybersecurity? You never told me you were that advanced. Sasha's lips twisted in a sad half-smile. I downplayed a lot of it. Hacking was a hobby, then a skill. They noticed me through back channels. I swore I'd never let it interfere with our life, but now they are forcing my hand. I didn't ask for this mission. They threatened to reveal some old hacking crimes if I refused. So I agreed, but I kept putting off telling you. I thought maybe I could back out, or find a way to do it remotely. But they are adamant. I sank onto the chair opposite, mind spinning. So, doctor is your handler? Sasha nodded. He's not a real physician, obviously. That's just the code name we used in case you ever saw the contact. I know it's insane. I'm sorry. Emotions clashed in me, anger at the lies, fear for Sasha's safety, sorrow at the looming separation. You were just going to vanish? Without a word. Tears slid down Sasha's cheeks. I was torn. They gave me a new identity, insisted I leave everything behind. But I couldn't bear the thought of you not knowing why I was gone. I kept hoping I'd find a way to explain. But the deeper I got, the more I realized it wasn't safe for you to know. If you told anyone, or if this got out, you'd be in danger too. My chest tightened. So you plan to disappear in 4 days to do this mission? And I'd be left thinking you'd run off or died or something. Sasha's voice cracked. Yes. Please forgive me. I couldn't see a way out. They threatened to frame me for serious cybercrimes if I refused, crimes that could put me away for life. I was trapped. A heavy silence fell. Rain tapped the windows, and thunder grumbled in the distance. My eyes burned. I thought about all the times Sasha had seemed distant, the sleepless nights, the frantic phone calls. It all led to this moment, a clandestine operation, blackmail, and heartbreak. You should have told me from the start, I rasped. I might have helped you find a way out. Sasha buried their face in hands again. I was terrified. I didn't want to drag you into it. I love you too much for that. But now you know, and I don't know what to do. My heart ached. Part of me wanted to scream, to rage that Sasha's choices robbed us of trust. Another part recognized the despair radiating from my spouse. They'd been cornered, manipulated, forced to lie. I took a shaky breath. We'll figure this out. But you can't just leave, not without exploring every option. Maybe we can go to a lawyer, or come forward with the truth. Sasha shook their head, tears still falling. They have evidence of hacks I did in my college years, some of it was innocent pranks, but it crossed legal lines. They're using that to coerce me. If I go public, they'll ruin me. I rubbed my temples, mind racing. Then we do it carefully. We gather evidence of their coercion. We find someone in government or the press we can trust. You can't let them bully you into a dangerous mission. We can fight back. A spark of hope flitted across Sasha's features. But it's so risky. If they find out we're exposing them. I leaned forward, gripping Sasha's hands. Staying silent is also risky. If you go on this mission, your life's in danger. And if it fails, or if you want out later, they'll have no reason not to throw you under the bus. The best chance we have is shining a light on them. Once secrets are exposed, they lose power. Sasha searched my gaze, vulnerability raw in those eyes. Do you really think we can do that? We can try, I whispered, voice wavering. I'm not letting you destroy your life in 4 days. We'll stand together. The next few hours felt surreal. We stayed up late, formulating a plan. Sasha revealed more details about the organization, code names, hush-hush operations, their methods for controlling recruits. My stomach twisted at the scale of it, but focusing on solutions kept me from drowning in panic. We decided to approach an old friend of mine who worked in legal circles, someone discreet and moral, who might guide us on how to handle potential government corruption. Throughout this conversation, tears came and went on both sides. We were honest about the betrayal, the heartbreak, the fear. But we clung to each other, a lifeline in the storm. By the time the clock neared midnight, we were emotionally spent, but resolute. We lay in bed, not sleeping, just holding hands. Sasha pressed a shaky kiss to my forehead, whispering, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I squeezed their hand. "I love you," I whispered back, tears in my own eyes. "We fight this together." The days that followed moved at a frantic pace. We met secretly with my lawyer friend, Harriet, in a deserted cafe on the other side of town. Sasha laid out the coerced recruitment, the blackmail, the upcoming mission. Harriet listened, face grim. She promised to contact a trusted investigative journalist who specialized in exposing government overreach. "But we have to be careful," she warned. "They'll monitor your communications. If they suspect you're flipping on them, it could get dangerous." As the final day approached, the tension in our home was tangible. Sasha still received calls from Dr., who demanded updates. Sasha pretended to play along, feigning readiness to depart. Meanwhile, Harriet arranged a quiet meeting with the journalist, Lily Moore, known for her fearless reporting. On the eve of Sasha's supposed departure, we drove to an out-of-the-way motel, Harriet in tow. Lily was there, waiting with a calm, steely demeanor that hinted at years of unraveling deep secrets. In a cramped motel room, Sasha recounted everything on record, while Lily took meticulous notes and recorded audio. My heart hammered with each new revelation. Sasha provided evidence, encrypted emails, proof of blackmail, fake IDs. Lily's eyes lit with the zeal of someone on the brink of a major scoop. "This is huge," she breathed. "If this checks out, we could blow the lid off an entire covert network. But we must move fast. They're expecting you to vanish tomorrow?" Sasha nodded, voice shaky. "Yes, tomorrow evening. They are flying me to an overseas location." Lily stood, brimming with determined energy. "Then tomorrow morning, I'll publish a teaser, just enough to show I have the story. Once they see the media glare, they might back off. Or they'll try to discredit me. Either way, it forces them into damage control." I exhaled, a swirl of relief and terror. "Are we safe?" She exchanged a glance with Harriet. "We'll do our best to keep your identities under wraps until we can confirm the full story. But it's a race against time." That night, Sasha and I returned home, hearts pounding. We braced ourselves for fallout. The next morning, Lily released a cryptic article hinting at a clandestine government group blackmailing American citizens into espionage. She promised further details soon. Within hours, Sasha's phone lit up with frantic calls from Doctor. We ignored them. Then a text arrived, "What have you done? We know you went to the press." Sasha showed me the screen, fear etched on their face. Another text buzzed through, "You've made a grave mistake. We're coming for you." Panic flared, but Harriet urged us to remain calm, encouraging us to gather any threatening messages as further evidence. By midday, Lily published more specifics, though she withheld Sasha's name, referencing only a key witness in the operation. Social media exploded with speculation. Government officials scrambled to respond, some denying, others promising investigations. Our phone rang off the hook, Sasha's boss, concerned about the mention of espionage. We answered with rehearsed statements, "We can't talk right now, but we're safe." By evening, no sign of retribution had arrived at our door. Harriet believed the public attention made it too risky for them to act openly. Lily posted an update that she'd hand over documents to certain allied members of Congress. The story was gaining traction. Sasha and I hovered by the TV, flipping channels to watch for coverage. My heart pounded every time headlights flashed outside, but no suspicious visitors came. That night, as we cowered in our living room, exhaustion weighed us down. A swirl of relief, worry, and heartbreak churned in my chest. Sasha sat close, head on my shoulder. "I'm so sorry," they whispered, tears gathering. "Your life shouldn't have turned into this mess." I wrapped an arm around them. "We'll endure it together. Better messy truth than living a lie, right?" Sasha's lips quivered in a sad smile. "Right." The next morning brought chaos and hope. Lily revealed more files, naming high-level figures in the covert unit. Government sources confirmed an internal probe was underway. Sasha's role remained anonymous, and we prayed it stayed that way. Harriet worked behind the scenes to ensure that if the blackmail evidence saw the light of day, Sasha's old hacking misdemeanors would be overshadowed by the public interest in this scandal. The risk of retribution still loomed, but each hour that passed without an attack felt like a victory. Midway through the day, Sasha's phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number, "Stand down. We're disbanding. You talk, we talk. Everyone goes down." Another cryptic threat. Sasha's hand shook reading it. But Lily and Harriet insisted that was a bluff. The more public the story got, the less leverage they had. My stomach still churned with fear that a desperate faction might lash out. But we pressed on. The next weeks were a blur of swirling news coverage, official statements, and carefully orchestrated silence on our end. Lily demanded transparency from the government. Politicians scrambled to distance themselves from the covert group. Eventually, a few mid-level officials resigned. Some deeper players remained hidden, but the group lost its bite in the harsh spotlight. Meanwhile, Harriet negotiated immunity for Sasha, should any of the old hacking charges resurface. The entire ordeal felt surreal. Finally, a calm settled. No more menacing calls. Doctor vanished from the radar. Sasha, no longer coerced, returned to a normal work routine. We were left to pick up the pieces of a marriage battered by secrecy and fear. The path to healing wasn't easy. I still grappled with anger and betrayal, while Sasha wrestled with guilt. But therapy sessions and open communication helped. Over time, we rediscovered the trust we once took for granted. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I recalled the day I saw that suspicious contact name pop up on my phone, Doctor. The wave of dread that crashed over me, launching me into a labyrinth of covert threats and heartbreak. If I'd ignored it, Sasha might have vanished into a dangerous mission, perhaps never returning. It chilled me to think how close we came to losing each other. Yet adversity forged a deeper bond. We realized that honesty, no matter how terrifying, is always better than a labyrinth of half-truths. Months later, Lily's expose on the covert group won her an award for investigative journalism. Harriet, ever discreet, resumed her regular cases with a satisfied sense of justice. Sasha's skill in cybersecurity found legitimate channels, an above-board position at a reputable firm, ironically recommended by Harriet's connections. Our life slowly stabilized, free of secret calls and coded threats. One evening, as I relaxed on the couch, the landline rang. My heart skipped. After all we'd been through, phone calls still carried an undercurrent of anxiety. Sasha met my gaze, both of us bracing. I picked up. A woman's voice, bright and unfamiliar, greeted me. "Hello, I'm calling to schedule your routine dental cleaning." I nearly laughed with relief. A normal, mundane appointment. No clandestine nonsense. Sasha sighed, slumping beside me, relieved grin on their face. "Guess we can finally answer the phone without panicking." I nodded, setting the receiver down. Yes. Thank God. Then I turned to Sasha, tucking a strand of hair behind their ear. No more secrets, I whispered. Promise. Sasha's eyes shone with sincerity. Promise. We sealed that vow with an embrace, the warmth of the moment driving away echoes of the storm we'd survived. And as we held each other, I felt certain that any future calls from an actual doctor, or anyone else, would be faced together, head-on, with nothing left to hide.